25th to the 27th, 25 coffee-producing countries in Africa will be meeting here for a coffee summit under the umbrella of Inter-Africa Coffee Organization, EACO. They will discuss a number of issues. And right now, we are joined by the Secretary General of the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization. Karibu sana Bwana Solomon Rutega.
Thank you.
Shukran for coming.
Thank you very much.
Now, 25 African countries. What is the G5 summit all about? What are you seeking to achieve? What are you believing in actually coffee as an anchor commodity in Africa will provide the desired results at the end of this two-day conference?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ben. The group of 25 Africa coffee-producing countries is converging here in Nairobi to share ideas and come up with solutions to some of the myriad challenges that is facing the coffee industry. We're very, very grateful to the host country. I'd like to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Kenya government for agreeing to host the summit here. It's the first summit. And we seek to request the African Union to adopt coffee as a strategic commodity so that we are able to address the challenges and come up with appropriate policies at the regional level.
And looking at the African continent, for the past around 40 years, we have witnessed a decline, and even some farmers have uprooted their coffee. And we have seen the markets go to about 10% of the capability that the African continent can produce. What do you intend that this summit will focus on and we talk about so that we may actualize and that even the farmer himself may feel he is a coffee farmer? Of course, we have witnessed some of the reforms in the coffee sector by the Ministry of Agriculture. What as a summit do you intend to achieve?
Yeah, it is true. Africa's production has been going down, and that is why we're bringing everybody together to see how we can address the challenge of increasing production and productivity. In the case of Uganda, where I come from, they've had a success story of increasing production from 4 million bags to 8 million bags. And they have experiences they would like to share with other coffee-producing countries. So the purpose of the summit is to converge, get this group of African producers together and exchange ideas on how we can reverse the situation. We are very optimistic that with the youthful population in Africa, we shall be able to increase our production and productivity and also increase on domestic coffee consumption. Yeah, so the purpose of our summit is to address those issues of production, of value addition, of finance, and other things that cut across the coffee value chain.
And still on the past, coffee in Kenya, back in the late 80s and 90s, we were doing very well, and African countries were doing well as well. But that did decline, and some people decided to switch to something else. But in Africa, do we have a case example that can showcase exactly coffee? We need to focus all our energies so that we may go back to the heydays.
Yes, the issue of price volatility has been one of the key factors that have created a decline in production, and farmers have cut their trees because these prices are very volatile. So what we're trying to do now is to increase on domestic consumption so that we don't have to depend so much on exporting our coffee outside. You see, if we start drinking it and we have the potential of consuming about 13 million bags a year, we'll be able to at least have some stability in the pricing so that people don't cut their trees. Of course, there are other challenges of infrastructure in terms of the storage, in terms of the logistic infrastructure. These are also challenges that we are addressing as a regional body. And if we get adopted under the African Union, those are some of the things that we shall be discussing at that level. So it is true, we are trying to reverse this situation of a decline in productivity and production by encouraging domestic consumption, investment in the infrastructure, so that people, young people are able to start drinking coffee, and that coffee can be competed for, both at the national and at the international level. We have countries like Ethiopia. Ethiopia consumes 50% of their coffee production
Wow.
Yes. So
Kenya, we are doing what percentage?
Kenya could be around 3% of what you produce. It's still low.
That's quite low.
Yes, the per capita consumption in most of the sub-Saharan is below 1 kilo per person per year. So we're trying to see if we can go to countries like Ethiopia, which is about 3 or 4 kilos per person. In the Maghreb countries, you have about 6 to 7 kilos per person per year. Of course, in the developed world, in the Scandinavian Nordic countries, it's about 9 kilos. So there's a big gap, and that's an opportunity for us that we can invest in this value addition, so we're able to consume what we produce.
How do we encourage Kenyans to pick up coffee so that we may have our own domestic market? Because looking at the percentages, they are quite low. How do we encourage Kenyans to consume so that we ensure that we have our own market before we decide to sell? Because looking at the coffee that we have in the country, you sell at a certain amount, but after it has been processed and brought back in the country, it is sold at a very high price. How do we benefit from that?
Yes, what we're doing as Ayako, we have a youth program. As I said, Africa has got the youngest population. So we are trying to start with the universities. We have opened up several coffee houses at the University of Kenyatta University, Egerton University, and in other coffee producing countries. We believe if we start inculcating this culture at a young age, these are the future coffee drinkers of the continent. So we are coming up with barista championships. And these championships, we train people to learn how to roast coffee, how to brew coffee, and how to taste coffee. We also come up with other initiatives like the Women and Youth Forum, where we get young Africans who are involved in opening little cafes. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of cafes opening. This is a signal that the consumption is growing and that young people are enjoying coffee. So if we start at the primary, secondary, university level by introducing a curriculum of training people on how to grow coffee, how to drink coffee, we believe that the opportunities for consumption definitely will go up.
Now, Solomon, we are trying to galvanize coffee consumption and so that we may boost the trade outside and locally. But it's still facing a lot of challenges from other brews. I can tell you for free, today I've taken tea, I've not taken coffee. And other than that, there are people who drink soya, others chocolate, others tea, others soft drinks, others don't even take tea or coffee.
Yes.
Well, is there a future for coffee?
There's a huge future for coffee. Just to give you some background, coffee is the second largest traded commodity after oil. It's valued at about 466 billion. Coffee is a very strategic commodity in terms of the livelihoods that depend on it. 53% of our rural communities depend on coffee to generate a livelihood. So it is a product, I believe, that has a lot of positive attributes, not only as a drink, but also medicinal. Yes, there are some medicinal attributes to coffee that we could use as a promotional strategy to tell you that you're better off drinking coffee than soda. It's more healthy for you to drink coffee than soda. So we believe that the space is enough. You can have your soda, your tea, but in terms of impact on the employment, on the GDP for most of our countries, youth employment, coffee offers a better chance than other products.
And you see, Africa is rapidly developing. Urbanization is taking over everything. Do you think this is quite a market that African countries can explore?
Absolutely. As I told you, that half of our consumption is imported in finished form from abroad.
But from Africa?
No. What happens, Africa sends the green bean of 13 million bags. And then we import 50% of that coffee in finished form. So
and
the coffee goes up more like 10 times the price.
Yes.
We have to reverse that trend. We're sort of trying to do. So that tells you there's a gap of that 6 million bags that comes in as value addition. So we think that that offers an opportunity for the industry to invest in the infrastructure. By infrastructure, it's not just opening a instant coffee factory or a roasting factory. You have to invest in packaging, You have to invest in the shipping. You have to, there's a whole list, advertising, yes. Branding. So those are the things we need to help our people in terms of focusing on. So it's not just the factory. There's a whole catalog of things that we have to do to improve on invest in the domestic consumption. But the future is bright. As I mentioned, a young population with consumption rate growing about 2%. Offers a very big opportunity for the continent.
Yeah. And in the last few years, majority of world coffee producers, especially here in Africa, have left the organization. Who have left, and the 25 nations, all of them coming? Yeah, now, the Inter-Africa Coffee Organization represents 25 African coffee producing countries. The global organization, that's a different, that question probably will have to be answered by them. But for us, we are in the process of ratifying our agreement to bring in the 29 other non-coffee producing countries. As I mentioned earlier, the per capita consumption in North Africa is very high. So there's an opportunity for coffees in the sub-Saharan Africa to export their value-added coffee up north and also in the southern part of Africa and also parts of West Africa. So our focus as AYACO is to include all the 54 African countries under the AU to be able to trade with each other. We are very privileged. We have the creation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and we are going to work under this framework to promote the inter-regional Africa coffee trade. And as we wind up, does the international markets like Brazil, being the world largest producer, affect how the market, the international markets? We had frost last year, and the prices had plummeted. Yes. Can it affect the African continent? Yes, of course we operate in a global environment. Brazil, which contributes quite a big, more than 30–40% of the production, whenever there is a frost, international prices do go up. But over the years, this is a temporary cycle. So it doesn't mean that when the prices go up, they're going to remain up. Yeah, so we are definitely enjoying that little boom, but eventually the prices will go down. Now, to avoid that, it's better that we invest in our value addition infrastructure so that we have some price inelasticity as a finished product. You find the elasticity is more pronounced in the green bean than in the finished product. Yeah, so in terms of pricing, the value-added coffee is less inelastic as opposed to the green bean that changes according to frosts and other challenges that may come. All right. Thank you so much, Solomon Rutega, and thanks for that insight. Remember that conference will be on 25th to 27th at the Safari Park Hotel. 25 African countries and their heads will be here to discuss or chant the way forward when it comes to matters of coffee. And if you get a chance, as he said, coffee is better than soda. All right, let's continue with our news, where 3,000 fistula cases are reported in the country annually.